Hey, what's up, y'all? It is Chris, your sneaker professor. Arch-USA.com is the website. The link to this article will be below in the description, so make sure you take a second to go to the description, click through, and you can read the article in detail. I'm going to be giving you this information directly from what you see over here to the side. But as you heard last week, and a lot of sites have written about it, but they didn't go into any great detail. What I want for you guys is to have a better working knowledge of what's happening here and what I think is about to take place and what needs to be discussed. So let's get into it. Adidas and Foot Locker announced new long-term strategic partnership. So I've been covering this for a long time. Well, covering sneakers for a long time, and a lot of you guys, you've seen all the videos and stuff like that, but you don't go to the website, and you really need to go to the website because there are older articles that give you a different depth of discussion than the bigger sneaker sites. So let's go. First off, Adidas is one of my favorite brands. When they're in their bag, the result is a considerable growth and attachment to sneaker culture and regular consumers that rivals any brand. When the company isn't in their bag, they seem to be operating through way too many layers from their home base of Germany. The result, when this happens, contributes to difficult moments for the Three Stripes in the US. Note, Adidas already had an extensive relationship with Foot Locker stores. At the height of Adidas' growth in the last 8 years, Adidas at one point led the front of the store for Foot Locker. What does that mean? When we talk about the front of the store, when you walk in, the items that are placed across the front are typically the brands that are doing the best at retail. This is called merchandising. You can go to school for merchandising. If you're interested in it, you can look at a college like UT Austin for programs that will help you to become visual merchandisers, the people who go in and set up stores. I know that was a deviation, but it was an important one. When you went into the stores, they led the front of store for a long period. And I'm sure you guys remember this. And it was pretty doggone prominent, right? You could go in and the Adidas shoes were all at the front and then the Nike basketball shoes were all the way in the back. So Nike basketball and Jordan brand were pushed to the back. That's really important to understand. That's why I kind of went off track there. But in 2017, Adidas overplayed its hand. So like if we're in Vegas and they give you your cards and you're like right there close to 21 and you're like, yeah, hit me. Adidas asked for another card and they shouldn't have. They didn't need to. They changed what didn't need to be changed. And then a series of things that happened kind of collapsed their growth that was taking place in the US. So let's see what happened here. They changed some things that didn't need to be changed. They decided to increase the pricing on the NMD because remember the NMD when it came out was 110. It went up to 130. They really didn't need to change anything with the NMD. It was doing incredible and it had great margins for even the resale side of things. And when you have great margins for resale, retail does better. I know a lot of people like, yeah, screw resale, but I'm serious. When resale is doing well for a brand, and those margins are there, it helps the brand. And I know it doesn't help a lot of customers, but it does. So let's not even get into that part of it. But they increased the price of the shoes. And then they rolled out the NMD version 2. And then they rolled out the NMD XR1. And all these different versions of the NMD. And then they rolled out the EQT 9317, EQT, and there was just a series of EQT Boost sneakers that were priced at $180 and $200. And that's just like the flagship Ultra Boost. So delivering these general release shoes, rivaling their flagship, it's like Jordan brand releasing a Max Air Jordan 2 for $190. You release that Max Air Jordan 2 at $190, it's not going to sell because that's what the price of a retro is. You can't compete with yourself. So they increased the pricing of these shoes and it rivaled their flagship, and that contributed to what became a promotional era for the Ultra Boost. And that shoe hasn't recovered since. You can go into a store and look at a 2021 and the Ultra Boost 2021 or 2022 or whatever it is on sale. Even when it was a brand new shoe, it was on sale within a month. And that's because of what happened way back in 2017. So the ramifications of what happens with shoes and sneakers in stores, these price increases and the rollout of these different shoes, they hurt that flagship shoe. Let me get back on track. The Ultra Boost hasn't recovered since. Now, Adidas also dropped Shadow Knit. And I don't even know if you guys remember Shadow Knit as a new tech on the NMD, pushing the price of the NMD. And then they added Prime Knit to the NMD. And if you remember the Sashiko series, NMD, it looked like the Yeezy Zebra, the Yeezy 350 Zebra. I don't know if you remember that, but that shoe was $180 from 110 to 130 to 180. The XR1 was 150. So you had all of these different NMDs and the prices just varied wildly and they were way overpriced. But you had an NMD, an Ultra Boost, an EQT Boost, all at Jordan Retro pricing. And it led to what you're going to see over here to my side below, right? The list of wrongs that I'm giving you right now is getting way too long. So I'm going to stop there. And here's the picture. This is what the wall pre-COVID. So this isn't no supply chain problems or anything else. This is the wall at Adidas pre-COVID. The wall inside of Foot Locker. So it's obvious Adidas and Foot Locker already had a relationship. However, Adidas basketball was not inside of Foot Locker in a considerable way. But that's not quite true either. Let's keep going. And here are some things to consider. Foot Locker, and I'm bouncing from Adidas now to Foot Locker. Foot Locker moved some of its distribution and supply chain to Las Vegas. Now that's not commonly known, but they have, and there are going to be some problems with that I can't really get into. But that infrastructure move doesn't make sense. And it places the company at a disadvantage of not being centrally located in the US. But Adidas and Foot Locker elevating their partnership kind of makes this an interesting moment. And I have to say that Zappos did well in Vegas, but that's the exception and not the norm. But maybe, just maybe, with Adidas basketball now in LA, Foot Locker and Adidas are only 2 hours away from each other. And this can lead to considerably improved relationships for the two companies. That's an important note to think about. They're really close to each other. That's big. Anyway, as Nike has reduced allotment, one has to wonder if Fly Zone at Kids Foot Locker and House of Hoops at Foot Locker will be upgraded to a more useful design, incorporating a basketball theme that's built around Foot Locker versus a dedicated brand house solely for hoops. Now, what do I mean by that? Jordan Brand, Nike control House of Hoops and Fly Zone. All right. If Foot Locker can change their stores now, since the allotment is decreased, and Foot Locker builds a strategy for basketball versus relying solely on Nike, House of Hoops, and Jordan Brand, if they build a basketball concept, it could be a completely different thing. So let me keep reading here. Nike hasn't really given Foot Locker a leg up to compete with Lids, the hat store, or the NBA store with jerseys. And the Nike apparel that's in House of Hoops and Fly Zone, it's uninspired, it lacks color, and it's not helped out at all by the signature basketball models from Nike and Jordan Brand. Foot Locker has to build out its own concepts and frame the brands within that concept. This would rely on Nike relinquishing the real estate for Fly Zone and House of Hoops. I can't say how that works, and I'm not sure how it would work, but something has to happen there. 3, I don't really see the basketball models from Adidas performing well either. If you remember the $250 crazy boost you wear for Resale was marked down to $19.99 at Foot Locker. At one point, in my region here in the South, if you go tri-state, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, I'll even go 4 states there. If you go into this tri-state kind of area, basketball for Adidas doesn't exist. Not really at all. There's never been a dedicated space for Dame Lillard sneakers. There's never been a dedicated space for Donovan Mitchell sneakers, and those sneakers end up sitting on the shelves when they are available, and then they're typically only available in kid sizing, which kind of makes sense, but there's not really a big market inside of Foot Locker, and now they're going to change that, and maybe that'll help, especially since Fear of God will be leading the charge here. But I'm not so sure that's going to be such a big deal. Here's why. Fear of God is in its second year. There hasn't been one collection released in considerable numbers from Adidas times Fear of God. Nothing. Now, if I compared it to Just Done and the All City collection released with Foot Locker, that was a Just Done collection with Foot Locker, I found the Just Done collection on sales racks. And to compare those two isn't quite fair. If the Fear of God collection is elevated in pricing, Adidas could find itself in a difficult position of this again, right? Look over here to my side, that picture, and all of those red tags, because that Adidas pricing would be similar to how they increased the pricing of NMD back in 2016, 2017. That could be a problem. Now, I wrote an article on this. Gosh, when did I write this? 2019. And I did a chat with House of Kicks, and he asked a bunch of questions, and I explained sales and how the sales decreased over time. So if you look over here to my side, you'll see, and you go down to the links. I'll put the links down here to this article so you can go and look at it. I show the sales of Adidas in 2017 via third party at 165 to 200 a pair on EQTs and NMDs. I come back later in 2019 and I show 160 at the most, 180 at the most, and then you get 95s, 185s. It's kind of fluctuating in 2019. It's moving around a lot, but only with certain models did it do really well. The Japans, the Core Black, well, no, that's 120, 185. The Japans did well, but you can see the Sashiko NMD, which was $180 NMD, dropped all the way to $86 in resale. And that's because I was getting those shoes for $29.99, buy one, get one for $1. Actually, $64.99, buy one, get one for $1. So about $37 a pair. You come down here now, and I show you the Sashiko pricing again, and I explain that pricing. All right. So let's go back to this article and look at this a little bit more in regard to comparing Fear of God to Just Done. I wrote another article explaining why it's a really difficult process to roll out those type of products into a Foot Locker, and I'm going to explain here why. When apparel is overpriced and footwear is overpriced at Foot Locker, if it's not a retro, it doesn't work that well. Contrary to how Foot Locker has positioned itself as the source for youth culture and for sneakers, the prominence of Foot Locker locations and the availability of those locations in stores makes Foot Locker the first stop for like parents. And when those parents seek footwear, they don't look for stuff that's overpriced. They are looking for things that are right priced. All right. What you have to ask yourself is this: will the sneaker enthusiast market react to Fear of God in the same manner that they did All City? And All City by Just Done isn't expensive. It's an exclusive Foot Locker product, but it's comparable to the Nike apparel. So Foot Locker has to take the Just Done All City product and merchandise it in more prominent places throughout their stores to drive engagement with that product. The irony, though, is Foot Locker's private label, Locker, it does well. That apparel tends to be right priced. and it's on trend with the colors and the schemes, but it's right priced. Even when they mark it down, the margins are still solid for Foot Locker. So if Foot Locker can sell more of its own locker gear than a Just Done collab, then what does this mean for fear of God in Foot Locker? Now, this one is a little bit way off topic, and this is number 5. Foot Locker's investments into GOAT and Network can move towards a strategy that will allow for a limited drop with fear of God. Greenhouse, the Foot Locker's kind of network-style drop app, is pretty much dead. You don't see it anywhere. The relationship with GOAT and Network could offer Foot Locker an opportunity to do what eBay just did with Sunra and Proto and the eBay drop. It can give them a StockX-styled IPO type of relationship on limited footwear collabs, which is what Adidas is saying is going to happen. They're going to have a lot of hype launches. So if we're expecting hype launches and Foot Locker and Adidas are looking at $2 billion in retail sales, can hype launches contribute to a $2 billion growth? I don't know. I don't know if that can happen, especially when you consider they have Just Done. It's not exactly flying off the shelves. Melody Asani, the collections by her are very limited in scope. They don't generate a lot of money. They're great for marketing, but they tend to hit this kind of specialized demographic. Can Foot Locker really hit this $2 billion number? I'm not sure. The Foot Locker and Adidas thing is really compelling. And when you look at all of the money that they're saying they're going to generate, I have to wonder if those targets are just way too aggressive. When I consider Adidas basketball has had solid presentation in JD Sports and Finish Line, right? JD Sports Finish Line. And sales haven't really been that explosive in that manner to hit $2 billion. I feel like this is kind of a setup for disappointment. I hope I'm wrong, though. Adidas is definitely filling a space that Nike left available after decreasing the allotment. But there are a lot of factors to be considered when looking at this new relationship. And if you go back to an older article here where I did these in-store visits, let's see. As a matter of fact, I'll open that up. And I did these in-store visits and I talked in considerable amount about the basketball sections on the walls at stores. And I showed the layout of a Finish Line versus a Foot Locker. And it's got several different parts that you can kind of go through. I'm just not quite sure that this partnership is going to generate what the two companies are hoping for. But this is another one of these lectures where it's going to be ongoing and we'll have to revisit it. Hopefully this was informative and it's something that you guys appreciate. I like doing this, even if it doesn't get a lot of views. But I think it's really good information, especially the part about visual merchandising, because I think a lot of you guys don't realize when you walk in a store, there's a team that works specifically for the layout of a store. That's a real job that you can go to college and get. And if I really want to be honest, that's the most important aspect of this discussion. Not these billion-dollar companies connecting and doing this stuff. The fact that you guys know that you can get a job in visual merchandising and you can look it up. That's probably more important than anything. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up and I'll see you guys on the next one. Always these long videos, but if you stay this long, I appreciate you for kind of jumping in the water and checking out a different type of content for the sneaker community. Peace.